All right. So now that you're getting these lessons on love, I'd like to get to one that you are probably more familiar with. Today's lesson on love is what the Greeks term eros, E-R-O-S. Eros is a passionate, a romantic love. It's rooted in feelings of affection, attraction, and sexual desire. So remember, we talked already about philia, which is a brotherly love, and that one's based on our commitment towards another person and our loyalty. It's just a very strong bond with sacrifice. The second one we talked about was ludus. That's more of a game playing love, and that's one that we really endure more when we are young. I'd like to think of teenagers and young people when they're falling in love and everything's about fun and games. And they haven't yet learned, this idea of commitment. Well, today's lesson on love, Eros, is again leaning a little bit into that, which we think about when we say I'm in love. So if I want to break down the 5 different love styles here, when we say this one will come in handy more often when you say, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. When we say we're not in love, we're really referring to this type of love, Eros. So this is the one you've probably wanted, though I'm going to get to the really important love in a couple more videos. So this is the easiest for me. So the Greek word eros is where we also get the word erotic. It makes it easy to understand that this is the type of love that one is most definitely seeing, as I said, is that romantic love. It's the type of love that's shared between a man and a woman. And so when John Gottman talked about this, he's the grandfather of all marriage research. He talks about the love cocktail. And I refer to that in my book, The Super Couple, A Formula for Extreme Happiness. You should get it. It's a really good book. But we talk about those 11 hormones that are elevated when we first fall in love with another person. And the love cocktail is a combination of 11 different hormones that become elevated when we meet someone with whom we are hyper attracted to as a potential mate. So most of us have experienced a love cocktail at some point in our lives after we've met someone that we become crazy about. And I use the word crazy because these hormones that are elevated during this short, usually 6 months to 2 year period, they take over our brains and they make us less logic centered and much more passion and feeling centered, at least when it comes to connecting or communicating with the person who's the object of our attraction. So I think I've talked about this in past videos on the love cocktail, but I want to relate them again to you. So some of the hormones that are elevated are the ones that give you a natural amphetamine high. I mean, so if you just stopped right there, you could go, oh, well, that makes sense. When you first fall in love, you really are high. You're high on love. And so DHEA is the name of that hormone. It's elevated. There's a hormone that's elevated that reduces our fear and our good judgment, right? I mean, that's exactly what we need. So the oxytocin goes up. We're just not afraid of anything. Our good judgment's gone. It's just, we're much more carefree than we probably should be. But again, think of that beginning romantic stage of your love, and you'll understand why you're carefree. And I do think that God puts this in us for a reason, where this ability to fall in love with someone is so natural, so easy. It makes us want to be in love for the rest of our lives, which I'll talk about that in a minute. So we've got the oxytocin that's increased. And then we also have testosterone, which increases aggressiveness and sexual desire and lust, especially in men. Women have some testosterone too, but think of it, I'm aggressive and my sexual desire and lust is high. I want to pursue you. Also serotonin, which increases our emotional sensitivity and our low irritability. Like nothing he or she will ever do will irritate you, though everything everyone else does will at this point, right? So it's like, I love you. I don't have any fear. I'm not irritable. And then there's dopamine, which is responsible for your excitement, your pleasure, motivation, and risk-taking. I mean, think about that. How many babies are born based on this risk-taking hormone being elevated, going, oh, that's okay. Let's do it. We won't get pregnant. Well, thank you guys. That's the result of dopamine. Actually, all of these hormones that come together. But can you imagine if even one of these hormones was elevated all by itself? But you've got this massive rush of all of these. You really are crazy and unbalanced at this time. So then we look at my favorite, which is vasopressin. Vasopressin is known as the monogamy molecule, and it is responsible. Take testosterone and drop this on top of it for aggressive possessiveness. Aggressive possessiveness. I need to possess you, and not like the stalker type, though this is an element in there as well. Just all of us. It's like, I want to possess you. And it's especially in males, this vasopressin is responsible. It's because of the Y chromosome really adds onto these fibers of the vasopressin, making it really hypersensitive in them, where it's not as equally in the women. Anyway, so because of the vasopressin going up, it makes it impossible to love two people at the same time, which is why when your vasopressin is elevated, specifically in conjunction with these other hormones, people are thinking, I have never felt this way before. That's why it's a monogamy molecule. It doesn't allow you to think about any other person. That's why people have affairs. They're like, I never loved my spouse like this. There's no way I've felt this before. It's pretty stupid because, yes, you did feel that before when you fell in love with your spouse. It's just that this hormone is making you think otherwise. And that's why I wish people having affairs would watch this, and then they could see, I mean, because your brain is so crazy. If you're in the middle of an affair right now, you don't want to listen to this because it's so powerful. You convince yourself, no, not for me, not for me. But if you're one who really likes to use your intellect and realize, yeah, you are resulting from this hormone that is making you feel right now like you've never felt that way before. Use your logic to fight these feelings. So again, vasopressin is probably, if I had to pick one, the hormone that says this is true love. It is not. This is the hormone you'd better get under control because it's making you crazy in love, at least, or in lust, depending. So when we Eros someone, when you're looking at your romantic partner, you should just be saying, instead of I love you, you should be saying I Eros you, because that's what the Greeks did. I Eros you. And if we Eros someone, we need to be very aware that this is one of the Greek love styles that does not last. It doesn't last in any country. It can't. It's just that the Greeks have this name for it. It cannot last, because if it did, the world would stop moving as we know it. Everyone in this state of mind would have zero desire to do anything or go anywhere apart from being with the object of their desire, of their love. They'd not fix the house or repair the fence, or they'd not write the book that God told them that they're supposed to write. They'd not work on their business. They'd have no motivation to do anything else, because it's like, I just want to be with you. And I know it. I mean, I remember being in that state. Let's just skip work today and hang out together. Imagine if you did that every day. Imagine if everybody did that every day. That would be crazy. So while it might sound like I'm being overly critical of this love style, I am not. It is necessary for us to fall deeply in love with someone in order to commit to that person for the rest of your life. Because if we didn't have this and we had to think logically, the idea of making yourself choose to be with another person completely unrelated to you, with flaws and failings, it's like, okay, I'm going to choose you. We'll mate and we'll have a family. It would almost never happen. So I think God put this in place so we could fall. We'd make the decision, we'd love. And then when our mind's clear, we have to make a decision to love, which we're going to get to the other love styles, which are more of a choice in our love. So again, this type of love attracts us to and makes us want to spend the rest of our lives with that other human. But once it wears off, we're going to need to move into another love style, as I just said, one that's going to cause us to choose to love the other person. And that's the love style that's going to sustain your relationship or marriage for a lifetime. That video is coming soon. I think I've got 2 before that one. But until then, look, if you are in this phase, you're young, it's your first love, you're not yet married, and enjoy erosing your partner. Enjoy erosing your lover, your spouse. Enjoy the season of love because, while it's fleeting, it is a gift from God and one that you will treasure. It's the one that's going to sustain you when you go to the dark years of your marriage and you have to look back and remind yourself why you fell in love in the first place. And you're going to want to remember these feelings, these days, these things you did. The problem is when we think to ourselves, we need to get that back. We don't have those feelings anymore. Must not have been love. No, that's wrong. Because these feelings can't come back. They won't. And don't judge your spouse because you've fallen out of these feelings. Actually, maybe judge yourself that you've fallen out of these feelings and figure out what you can do to make love come back. So just got one last note, so romance does not die. While Eros might die and go cool, romance doesn't have to die. So when you transition to the other love style, the ones that are going to sustain your marriage for the long haul, remember what it was like when you were in Eros with one another. Do your best to deliberately try to replicate those days. Buy the flowers, kiss the cheek, hold each other's hands, play together more often. Just because Eros is fleeting and wears off naturally does not mean that you can't work to recreate it and rebuild those feelings that brought you together in the first place. So it's going to be well worth the loving reward you receive in the end for all those efforts. So that's today's lesson in love. It's Eros. I want you to go and Eros your spouse if you can, but you probably already moved into an even better love style. Watch tomorrow for that video. I'm Dr. Christine Bacon, and thanks for watching this informational Bacon Bit. And I'd like to remind you always to live your life sunny side up.